Thanks for joining us for Get Good with Storyline, and happy summer solstice. We have more daylight today than any other day of the year. And look how we're spending it. We are inside staring at computer monitors, which lends further credence to the observation that humans are reasoning animals rather than reasonable animals. So reasonable or not, I'm John Morley. I've been an instructional designer for a couple of decades now. Recently, most recently with Genentech, I'm now an external consultant. So if I can help you with a project, my email address is in the storyline. In the storyline, no, it's in the chat window. That's the way that works. Okay, that's me. Who are you? Please enter into the chat window your name, where you're calling in from, and if you would like to network with the other participants, adding your email address would make that a whole lot easier. No one knows everything about Storyline, especially me. So we have these workshops to share what we do know. Toward that end, we are very fortunate to have with us to be a guest presenter and fill in the latter half of this workshop. Okay, this is Karin Lorbeck. Karin earned her Master's of Science degree from the Norwegian University of Science and Technology. She worked several years in mobile network and systems engineering, working up to a management position. Then she promoted herself to a role of family caregiver. That involved going on 2 expat assignments to China, totaling 4 years in that country, during which she taught English in a Chinese school and coordinated the volunteers there. Back in the good old USA, she designed and implemented the database for FamilySpice.com. Look at this, all kind of yummy things and lots of items to track in the database. And also in the US, she earned credentials in instructional design, learned Storyline, continues teaching English as a second language, and participates regularly in the e-learning challenges, which is where I met her.
So happy to be there and meet all of you. And I'm looking forward to learning from John and sharing a few things I do.
Today, I'm demonstrating triggers. Here we go with triggers. Triggers in Storyline are writing computer code the easy way. Click OK on a dialog box for creating a trigger, and dozens, if not hundreds of lines of computer code are written that you don't even have to see. Triggers require a minimum of 3 questions, the answers to those questions. Do what, with what, when. And then conditionals can make it just as complicated as you can stand. To demonstrate, here's kind of a silly game I created based on a pirate treasure map sort of thing, except as you can read up here, there are both treasures and landmines here. And just to make it more interesting, multiple locations may be selected to dig at the same time. Although this is not all that realistic, you can't obviously dig up 2 things at once. It does make it a little more complicated to program, and we are all about challenges here. So let's demo this. If the learner clicks dig without selecting anything, they get the nag message here that they have to select something. So let's do this one at a time first. I'll click the first one, click dig, and I'm $1 million richer. Okay, that's incentive enough to do it again. And whoops, I am injured, but I have survived, and I can quit, but I'm greedy, so I'm going to go for it. I'm going to try one more, see how lucky I am here. And wow, now I'm $2 million richer. So with all that incentive, I have to do one more, and my remains and $2 million will be sent to my next of kin. Okay, just to demonstrate here, I'll select 3 of these, and you can see now, because this is a landmine and these 2 are treasure, I now injured, but I've survived. So I can go to the other landmine and boom, mine remains. Any questions about the rules of the game there, how that works before I go under the hood? Okay, pretty simple, pretty straightforward. Let's go to take a look at this. Oh, I need to actually need to go back to this thing over here because I actually have speaker support here. There are three categories of triggers in this name. The first set what happens once the dig button is clicked. The second category is what happens during the dig, and then there's the quit, the reset to play again set. And the buttons have three different statuses: 0, 1, and 2. 0 means it's not been selected. 1 means it's selected to be included in the dig, and 2 means it's been dug up already, so it should be taken out of play. Now let's get back to under the hood. I'll fill the screen with that, and you'll see the buttons are the triggers for the buttons are all over here. B1, 2, 3, and 4. This is what selects what will be happening when the user clicks dig. Let's take a look at this, and you'll see this first trigger tells us, well, let me just point out that on the game, you're able to see where did this go? On the game, the user is able to toggle these on and off. They click once and it will be included. They click again and it will no longer be included. So how do we do that? We do it this way. The first trigger looks to see if the status is 0. If the status is not 0, it adjusts the variable to a value of 1, which means it's in play. So do what? We're adjusting a variable with what? The status of 1, and when the B1 button is click. Now, let me just quickly show you the variables that are involved here. We have for the 4 different buttons we have, I will explain these in a moment, true or false, 4 different true or false variables, and then there are numbers here. Remember, I talked about each button can have one of 3 statuses. These are the 3 statuses here. The statuses for button 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then the numbers are the amount of money that you get from digging up treasure. So as I pointed out, this sets the variable to a value of 1 if it's 0, and the other one here sets it to 0 if it's 1. Your basic toggle going back and forth between one or the other. But there is a problem here. Well, looking at this, well, let's take a look at the first one. This sets the value to 1 if it's 0. So we're at 1 when we go to this, and this sees the 1 and turns it to 0. The way that these triggers work is that the following triggers supersede what was done before. So what we've created here is an endless loop that always ends with the value being 0. So how do we get ourselves out of that? That's what this button's about. Storyline gives us this wonderful functionality of a toggle. If your variable, which is odd click for 1, is a true or false, you can either set it to true or false, or you can toggle back and forth. Let me first explain what's going on here. We know that if I get my fingers up here, the first click puts the button in play. The second click takes it out of play. The third click puts it in play, fourth out. So we're going back and forth between odd and even. Doesn't make any difference how many times it has been clicked. We know that if it's an odd click, it's always being put in play. If it's an even click, it's being taken out of play. So let's take a look at this one. Here we go. This tells us if it's an odd click, if odd click is true, that means we should make it in play. And then this tells us the mirror of that. If it's false, if it's an even click, we know to make it 0. So this conditional takes us out of this situation where this second one always overrides the first one. Any questions about how that's working? Now, a reasonable animal taking a look at this would question that if the salient thing going on here is this odd click being true or odd click being false, why don't we just trigger this off the odd click variable? So let's take a look at this one down here. This one is doing exactly that. Adjust the variable. This is button 2, so this is a status of 2. Make the status 1, which is to say put it in play if the click is even, which is to say it's being put in, it's out of play, so we're putting it in play. And here is just the opposite. If it's an even click, it's going to take it out of play, give it a 0 value. So let me get these slides out of it. Let me just hide these. We can see that these 3 triggers are being replaced by, not only being replaced by these 2 triggers, but both triggers are simpler, easier than what we have there. Any questions about how either of those work and why this is a simpler, cleaner way to handle that? Okay, so the same thing is done for button 3 and button 4, which gets us to the next category. What happens when the user clicks dig? Well, the answer to that is a whole bunch of stuff. Remember me saying that we're demonstrating that when the user clicks dig without selecting anything, they get the nag message. The nag message being all these messages are in layers, so they get this layer. You need to click at least one. Let's go back to that. So you see that if the status of all of them are 0, not in play, we show the error layer here. Pretty straightforward, except that a reasoning animal would look at this and realize that a status is a variable. And there is a one-to-one relationship between these variables and, let me click a button and look at states. There's a one-to-one relationship here because normal is 0, selected is a 1, dug up is a 2. So in this, why are we bothering with variables at all when we could do it this way, which is just go to the state. If we see that the state of these 3 buttons is all normal, we know they haven't been selected, so they're not going to go into play when dig is clicked. So what would be the advantage of this trigger that uses the variables? What's the advantage to that over this trigger that doesn't require us to create variables at all? Do you see any advantage in one over the other? Well, let's take a look at this. This sets variables, right? So if this is a single slide game, which it is, this one works just fine because we don't set variables. But what is the benefit of a variable? Variables remember things. So if this is the front end on a presentation, and later on in the presentation, it's necessary to know which of these were selected, well, that would require the variables. So that would make what we are doing more appropriate in this situation. Next trigger, we get to add money. We're adding $1 million if the first button is put in play. And then we add a second trigger that if the other treasure button has been clicked and selected, that adds yet another $1 million. So regardless of what happens, if one or the other is clicked, $1 million is added. And if both of them are clicked, 1 million and then 2 million are entered. And then if no landmines are involved, we want to show the winnings layer to show how much money has been earned if either button one or button three have been pressed. The problem with this is that, let me get this out of the way. As I said earlier, storyline, the triggers that are lower in the stack supersede what come before. So if the learner has selected more than one button and it includes a landmine, well, this isn't going to be appropriate. So I'd have to do something like this to make it work, to show winnings only in one of these situations. If neither landmine had been dug up, one but not the other, and then the other but not the one, and this is just for button number 3, this would also have to be duplicated for the other button, the other odd one, button 1. But we don't really need to do that because these boom triggers follow the winnings trigger. So this is superseded by a boom, or if it is appropriate to show a boom, this is shown rather than the winnings. Do what? Show this layer with what? Boom number 1 when the button is pressed for dig. And this tells us that if one landmine is chosen but not the other, we show this information here. Let's get rid of that. That's when we show you're injured, but you can still go on. And then you have the two solutions, the two options there. So that's boom number 1. And that can be, we have 2 triggers. One trigger is if 2 but not 4 is selected, and the other trigger is if 4 but not 2 is selected. Those are the only situations in which you hit a landmine but don't die of it. And here, if you dig up both landmines, you get boom number 2. This shows that all of the combinations of things that can happen to give you a boom number 2. And that is the extent of what can happen. The following triggers here are setting the variables, the spots to dig up, out of play. So if one was selected, we now change it to dug up status 2, so it is no longer in play. We do that for button 1, button 2, whoops, button 3, button 4, and we also have to set the status of each button that was selected to the value of 2, take it out of play, but only if it was selected. So we do that for button 1, 2, 3, 4. And this takes us to something interesting here. Execute JavaScript. I'll show you why we have to do that by going back to, let me cancel out of that and go back to a demonstration. Okay. This is what the number would appear without the JavaScript. I add 1,000,000 and you'll see that without JavaScript, we don't get the commas here, and this is very difficult to read. So I went into eLearning Heroes to figure out how to go from this to this. And when I found out, when I see any solution includes JavaScript, my eyeballs roll back in my head and oh bother, and I try to think how else could I do this with a workaround, and you can't. You have to use the JavaScript. So fortunately, some really smart and generous person in most of these situations will suggest the Java code, the Java code the JavaScript that's needed, and all you have to do is copy and paste. So I just pasted in that and I'm ready to go, except for one thing. The code has variables in it. So the code that uses variables must be supported with variables, whoops, over here, with the variables that I have set up here. You see a variable here, num value, which is the number, the 2,000, 4,000, whatever. And then we have the text here is what is shown on the screen with the commas in it. So what this is doing is it is starting with the numerical value, doing all these magical things to put the commas in, and then here it spits out text value for what appears on the screen. So any questions about what happens when the dig button is pressed? All righty, let me.
Hey, John.
Yes, sir.
So I understand where you're going with adding the JavaScript. That's kind of cool. But in reality, for this particular example, you just need a state of text that's either 1,000,000 or 2,000,000. You just need two statements. You've made 1,000,000, you've made 2,000,000. You don't need to add because those are the only numbers you have available. So in reality, you don't need the JavaScript at all. You could just change the state of a text message and say, now you have 2,000,000, now you have 1,000,000, and just leave it at that.
Ron, you are obviously a reasoning animal, and and you came up with a cleaner and simpler situation for this. That would be perfectly appropriate for us in a more complicated game that could have any range of numbers. That this would be necessary, but as you suggested, if it's just the two things, that would be a lot cleaner. That would be a lot simpler. So thank you for that observation. Then what we have left is triggers for the layer here, pretty straightforward. All we have is a resume, so this just hides the layer. Same thing with the winnings, just hide the layer. Things get a little bit more interesting for the boom here, and that this has to cover two situations here. One, if the value is 0, or as Ron suggested, if we have a variable in here that tells us neither values have been added, you get the quit before you kill yourself message. But if down here, the number value is more than 0, either the 1,000,000, 2,000,000, or whatever, we show quit while you still have this amount of money. And then Go for it just hides this, and quit is a little bit more involved because we have to set everything back to 0, set it back to the way it was. So here we are setting the value of, that's a text value. So here we are setting back the odd click, whether it's an odd click or an even click. We need to set it back to the first one is going to be odd for button 1, 2, 3, 4, and then we set the status back for buttons 1, 2, 3, 4, and then finally we get to this kind of curious trigger here. Do what? Jump to a slide. With what? This slide. Why in the world would we want to jump to the slide that we are on already? Well, that is, let me show you this. I'll click on the map, and double click that, and we'll see over here when it says when revisiting, we want to reset everything back to the initial value. If we let it select automatically or go back to the save state, it would just continue playing the same game over and over, and it wouldn't make a whole lot of sense because everything would already been played and everything would not work out well. So let's go to button number 2. Again, same situation. This handles 2 different, cancel out of that, show the messages here. You see there are 2 different messages. If money has been won, your remains and money will be sent to your kin. If no money has been won, simply your remains will be sent. Any questions about any of this? Okay, well, thank you very much for your attention. I will share my screen and turn things over to Karin. Are you ready to enlighten us?
Sure, ready as I will be.
there she is. Okay, take it away, please.
Yeah, and I have to say, it feels very strange to sit here and present and talk to people that whose work I've seen that is just really amazing. But I will talk about cue points anyway, and maybe there is something of interest in there. So I just put a little subtitle in here, which is just when timing is intricate. As you will see as I present, many of the things that cue points do, you can do without cue points. And I've just found a couple of times that it's been helpful when a lot's going on. And I will show you what I mean by that as we move along. So first of all, what are cue points? And they are really just visual points that you can insert and move around on the timeline. So if you can see my timeline down here, I can move along here. I can move the playhead anywhere I want to, and I can insert it either by right-clicking my mouse, and I get create cue point at playhead. I just click there, and you'll see that a little point with a number 1 shows up. And let's say I want to put one up here at 8 seconds. The second way I can do it, which you can't see visually because you can't see me hit a button, but I am now pushing the key C for Q. And that also puts in a cue point where the player head is. So 2 ways to do it. Either you right click a mouse I'm on a Mac, but I do have a right clicking mouse, but if you don't, then it's also very easy to just type a C on the keyboard. You have to have the
is there a modifier key involved? Do you have to hold down a control or a
nope,
command? Or
you just have to be in the timeline. You have to be
put in the timeline. Okay, thank you.
Yep. So you have to be in the timeline. You have to have the the playhead where you want the cue point. Once you have placed it, you can drag it, you can move it around very easily. Wherever you just click on it, click and hold, and you can slide it to wherever you want to put it. You can't, for the time being, there's no way to enter the specific time that you want the cue point to be, like manually. Let's say I wanted it at 6.27 seconds or whatever. Right now there's no way to edit this cue point time. So it's not super precise. It's definitely precise enough for anything I do, but that's just one kind of note on that. So that's all for now. Let's say we just have two visual things. We have a cue point here and a cue point there. Let's see how we can use them. You can use them for basic entrance timing, just like for triggers when you want something to occur. You can use them for timing with audio and timing with video. And probably the last two are when it's most convenient to use them. And I'll try to demonstrate that. Trying to look at the time too. My time disappeared. So yeah, let's start with the basic entrance timing. And I apologize for kind of rudimentary part of these slides, but I really just want something very simple to demonstrate, just for the functionality. It's not really about anything else. So I find that the cue points, they are definitely most useful when you have two or more objects. Here I have a text box that has 3 items in it. And then I just have 3 visuals to go with them. And so quite often, right now, if I were to preview this slide, it would just all show up at once and nothing exciting, just goes like that. So let's say I want to create a little bit of, put in some animation, and now I see what you're talking about, John. I have to, there we go. I have to make that bar on top disappear. So I want to just add an animation to the text first. Let's say I'm just want it to fade in. I wanted to do it a second, and I want to do it by paragraph. And what that does is once it enters, I'll just show it without the, I'll just show it on the timeline. It just shows, it just comes up one at a time. So let's say I want to align my visuals with the text. So first of all, so I know that it's a second each. So if it starts, or I can put cue points, it can be used for basic entrance timing. Let's say I want that at maybe 1.5 seconds. I can put a cue point in there. I can do the next one possibly roughly, as I said, it's not so easy to do accurately, at 3 seconds, and then at 4.5. Having put those cue points in, it's very easy to align these subtexts to the cue points. I select it, I right click it, and I can do align to cue point 1. That automatically moves the beginning of that text to cue point 1. Same with timing with audio. I can move that and align that to cue point 2. And the next one to cue point 3. That has all my text going. I still haven't done anything with the visuals, but then with the visuals, if I go down or if I go up and find them, I have my entrance icon. I want to align that to cue point 1, my sound icon to cue point 2, and my video to cue point 3. So what it does, it just helps me. It just keeps it. It means I don't have to sit here and carefully slide each one to the exact spot where I want it to be. It just does it for me. It aligns it to the cue point. So if I do a preview now, hopefully, let's see what the demonstration effect does. It should come up together at the same time without too much dragging along, along the timeline with each element. I had them finish here earlier because I was playing around with it, but that is for the basic entrance timing. Any questions on that or comments?
No, this is Jody though. Yesterday I was playing with something and I wish I had seen your demo before I played with it, because I did exactly what you were saying. I was dragging and I had like 10 things on the slide and I was dragging them around and I couldn't quite get it right. And this would have saved me
Right.
probably an hour, an hour of futzing around with it. So.
Well, I'm happy to hear that.
Mhm.
And I'll highlight that here. It's like, yeah, it's for this simple interaction, it's not really that useful, but when you start to have a lot of objects, it's super helpful.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say also, when, for example, I'm creating my storyboard, but I haven't created my audio yet, you know, I'll set cue points because it's so much easier to just move the cue points than, especially if I've got triggers associated with a particular spot on the timeline. I can use my triggers in conjunction with the cue points without having to reset the triggers. So
exactly.
Yeah.
And that's actually a really good point, because if I move a cue point here right now, nothing in the timeline changes, which is a little unfortunate. So if I move the cue points, then I have to go back and then realign the things that were aligned to cue point 1, right? So now I have to start keeping track of it. Whereas if I use triggers, and I'm going to cheat and look at my notes really quick, because if you use triggers, then it updates automatically. And I will show how to do that.
It's just that when you use the triggers, you don't have the benefit of the visual reinforcement of the timeline, because I don't know, everybody's brain works differently. I know it helps me sometimes to see that timeline, to know this happens then and this comes in. If you're using just the cue points, it all looks like it's on the timeline together. So, you know, I guess it depends like how your brain works.
I agree.
Yeah.
Yep.
The thing,
and yeah, exactly. And how is it easier to wrap your brain around all these different timings? For sure.
Yeah, the big advantage I can see that Jody alluded to is the way I'd been doing this in the past is I entered the timing, the 1 second, 2 second, 3 second into the trigger. And then when I moved something around, I was changing stuff, I had to go into the darn trigger over and over again to change the time. What you have here is you just slide the little cue point up and down. So that's a lot cleaner.
Exactly.
Well,
So if I create, let's just say go ahead.
I was going to say, the other thing you can do, rather than set things on the timeline, and I know it's nice to see things, you know, visually on the timeline, but you can also use states in conjunction with the triggers. So you can have an initial state of hidden, and then at a certain point on the timeline, or at a certain cue point, you can change it to normal. Or change it to a start, which will enable you to also use an animation to make it visible.
Exactly. So let's just do that real quick, just to see. So if I go and I just put this one back to show always, this little entrance icon here, and then I create a trigger for it where I say, oh, hold on, I'm going to start with it them being hidden, just like Declan said. And I go up and create a trigger. So if I change the state of my entrance icon to normal, when the timeline reaches cue point 1, right? Okay. So now you don't have the visual and the timeline as Jody
Mhm.
said, but you do have, now if I move my cue point around,
Mhm.
my trigger will work.
Yeah.
It will adjust itself.
Yeah.
Which is really nice. Someone was talking, I think.
Oh, that was Jody
Great.
saying yes. I was.
Okay.
And I was going
'Cause
to say
Uh-huh.
the other thing, a visual that you can have is when you hide something on the timeline, at least initially, you can, it looks a little different. It looks gray
Right.
on the screen. So it's at least a cue that you can see that, you know, it's not active at the start of the timeline.
Yep. So if I look at this now, where I guess I had moved this a little around a little bit. Let me just move it back to about 1.5. And if I do a preview, it should show what we already have, I hope. See what comes up. Same thing.
Yeah.
Very quickly. And then if I just decide to drag this super close to the second one, then the text won't change because that's still in the timeline and I haven't modified it, but the entrance symbol should now come later. It should update the trigger. So then that's a different timing. So that is a good way if you, I like using it with triggers when I want to play around with timing. When I want to see, well, do I want it here or there? If I just want it to follow an audio, which I'm going to do in the next slide, then maybe I just keep it in the timeline. But everyone, I'm sure, will do that as they prefer. Any other comments or questions on this part?
Yeah,
All
yeah. I assume you can use these as anchors. You can set up a trigger on another slide to go to this slide at a cue point. Is that possible?
Yeah, you could probably do what you would do, but you might need to do pass it on as a variable. I haven't done it, but I am sure it's possible. Either you could send a variable along coming from this slide, right? So, and that's the variable you pass along. And then you could do a trigger, which would be to start the slide at this time point if the variable is coming from whatever slide. Do you
Yeah,
see what I mean?
yeah, I do.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yep.
Or
that
if
should
you had a timing element on a slide, I guess you could, if, you know, send the person to slide X when the timeline reaches 10 seconds, that might be a way to play with timing if there was some kind of time stressor or something, I guess. That might be something to consider.
Yep. Yep.
There's probably
All
another
kinds
way to
of
do
time
it, but
variables.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, the trigger could be set up on when the timeline starts. You could have a trigger that jumps you to a specific cue if that variable is true rather than false.
Exactly.
Mhm.
Yep. So that should be pretty, that's maybe a good use of the cue points. Okay, next one is using cue points with audio. So here I just have an audio here, which I use text to speech because that was just quick and easy. I used somewhat random graphics. Just why are we here? To save me, reduce, reuse, recycle. That was my inspiration. And so here right now, again, if I just, there's no animation on this slide. So let's say I want to, I'll just play, oh yeah, so I practiced sharing the audio and let's hope, let me get back to where I could do this. Here we go. Oh, it does have share computer sound on still. So you know what? I'm just going to play the audio and let me know if you can hear it.
Cue points are particularly useful when you are working with multiple objects and
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Yes,
coming through.
yes.
Good.
Okay, excellent. Okay, so it's just an audio about cue points. Again, my goal is to talk about cue points. And what I want to do is, as I listen to the audio, I want to find a way to first put in one group of graphics, then a second group, and then a last group. So to save a little bit of time, I'm going to say how I'm going to do it. So I'm going to play the audio, and I'm
So-
going to insert cue points by clicking the C key.
And
as I'm
speaking of
down
time,
here.
you have 5 minutes left.
Right. Yep. So let's go. I'll start it. I'll start the audio, and as we're listening, you should see cue points coming up as I am pressing the C key. So here goes.
cue points are particularly useful when you are working with multiple objects and event times. For example, let's say I have this group of objects here that I want to have appear as the audio plays.
Okay, demo effect. Of course, my keyboard disconnected because I wasn't
Mhm.
using it. So here we go. I'm going to start over again. Here we go.
Cue points are particularly useful when you are working with multiple objects and event times. For example, let's say I have this group of objects here that I want to have appear as the audio plays. And here's a second group of objects, followed by a third group. I could carefully write down the times I want the objects to appear, and program the times into the triggers. Or I could use cue points.
Okay. So
Yeah.
as I was listening, I clicked the C key and put in 3 cue points. So now it should be pretty easy for me to align these different, I can click on these two. I can right click and I can align them to, align them to cue point 1.
Mhm.
I select the next two and I align them to, I should be, I have to click down here to align to cue point 2. And then these last ones, I can align to cue point 3. And now if I play the timeline again, you should see that it should be aligned with the audio. So let me do that real quick.
Cue points are particularly useful when you are working with multiple objects and event times. For example, let's say I have this group of objects here that I want to have appear as the audio plays. And here's a second group of objects, followed by a third group. I could carefully write down the times I want the objects to appear.
So anyway, so the point being that instead of pausing the audio, writing down what time I am and using triggers for the objects, it's really, really simple to use cue points.
Yeah, I vote for using the cue points.
Yeah. So with my last 2 minutes, I am just going to really quickly say there's a similar advantage to working with video. It's not quite as obvious because in video, maybe you want a text to appear, whatever. This is a reuse of a video that I've used even for some challenges. Again, you can just use the play button down here to get the video started. This is just how to do something on a Mac video. And let's say at this point, I want to put a reminder to myself that I want to maybe put an arrow or a marker here to emphasize exactly what the user is going to click. Then I can just insert a cue point right here. And then I can start the video again. Go to a different part, and I'm just going to do one more thing, and right there, I probably want to put in another cue point. That way I can go I can drag my playhead, move my playhead. I really don't always like to do this. If someone has a really good way to move this playhead, I would definitely appreciate it because it drives me crazy sometimes. Here we go. So here I know that right around here, I want to put something on the slide at Q point 1. So you can preview the video, you can make some notes for yourself, you can put in Q points, go back. It's easy to then go into the exact time on the slide that you want to put in a comment, a text, a graphic to add to your video slide. That was a little short and quick, but that's the using cue points with video. So really
You know what?
then
Can
just
I
go
chime
ahead.
in here? I do
Yeah.
notice that unless I put a transparent shape or something over the video, that the user can stop the video and then mess up the timing on the timeline. Has anybody found a better way to control it, or is just using that transparent shape the best way?
All
Yeah,
I know
I
is
just
the
put a veil.
transparent.
I just put a veil over it.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, that's
99% transparent white.
yeah, I do 100% transparent, and it
Mm.
as long I do notice though that if you do no fill, it doesn't work. You
Yeah,
actually have to
Yeah.
have a fully transparent fill.
Exactly. Yep.
Those little things that you just discover.
Mhm.
I know, and that would definitely mess up timing if you were to
Mhm.
have objects appear on the timeline according to how you think the video is going to play. So, yep,
Mhm.
good point.
Yeah, that's why we have these workshops, so we can share such knowledge. Any further questions on cue points?
There you go. My
Yeah.
summary right here. That's all there is to it.
No, that
Great
was
session.
Okay,
Great session.
Mm.
Really
very
helpful.
good. Okay.
Thanks, Karen.
Now, the intent of these workshops is to be an open forum to help each other learn. So I would like to know if anybody learned anything tonight. What do you have a take? I certainly learned about cue points, and also learned about the little thing over the videos. What has been learned tonight?
One of the things you asked, I know for me, and this really reinforces it, sometimes I inherit files from somebody,
Mhm.
and it's really hard to replicate someone else's head, when you're looking at a timeline, or, let's say I got Karen's file, it would take a while to just go through it and go, what was she thinking and why did she use this technique? Because there's like 20 different ways to do something. So I think, to me, it reinforces the value of, if you're going to inherit a file, make sure you talk to the person if you can. Sometimes you just get a file from someone who's been fired or something, or,
Yeah.
you
That actually
can't do
just
it.
a couple of weeks ago, I worked on a file from a previous employee. She's
Yeah.
fabulous,
Yeah.
but 32 variables and none of them
Yeah.
were documented.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
And it was really well done, but I was so
I
careful
have a
not
file
to break
that I
anything.
inherited from someone 4 years ago that I've just been updating for compliance training for 4 years. And there's these variables in it. I'm afraid to delete them because I don't know what they were thinking. And every year I look at it and go like, why did they have that reset on this page? Like, that doesn't make sense. But I'm afraid that if I get rid of it, it's going to tank everything and I'll have to start
Yeah.
from scratch. So
Yep. I hear you.
Use meaningful names on everything.
Yes. Just a quick update. I've got another position open for a instructional designer. And if you're interested, please contact me. Jacqueline.silva@ga.com. That simple.
A
If you're
full-time
looking.
position or freelance?
Pardon?
Is it a full-time position or freelance?
It is a full-time position and it's a hybrid. We work in the office 2 days a week or more if we want. And the rest of the time we work at home. We're also on a 980 schedule, so we get every other Friday off. It's great company too, by the way.
What's the location?
Location is in Poway.
San Diego.
Okay.
Yeah, Poway, San Diego.
Did anybody get a takeaway from this recording, this
I
workshop?
did. I don't know why I never noticed that there's a toggle trigger.
Mhm.
So I'm like, whoa, that's cool.
Yeah.
I just never noticed that there was a toggle trigger. So I'm going to look for it now.
Thank you. Yeah,
Yeah.
there are a lot of little Easter eggs buried in there that you don't know about until you've tried them.
And that's
Yep.
one I didn't know about until I inherited a file and somebody created it to put the video on and off. They made their own little, like their own little timing bar, like to turn the video on so you could stop it and start. I'm like, oh, what is this thing? I didn't know it either. It's been right in your face the whole time. And until
Mhm.
you see a use case for it, it's like, why would anybody need it? And I'm like, oh, that's brilliant that they did
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Well, with that, I'll say we're taking the summer off. We're not going to have one of these in July or August. We will be back September, the third Tuesday in September, October, and November. So I hope you are able to enjoy us then, join and enjoy us. And with that, I will say thank you to Karin. I certainly appreciated
thanks, Karen.
Yes.
her presentation, and
Thanks, Karen.
Thanks.
Nicely done.
thank the rest of you for participating.
All right.
Hope
Thank
to
you.
see you in another one.
Bye. Thank
Great
you.
seeing all of you.
Have a great summer.
Bye-bye.